Welcome to Discovering Discovery. This episode is brought to you by Rainn Wilson.
Really brought to you by Rainn Wilson. I don't think we'd have an episode without him.
Seriously, it's sponsored by.
Not our episode. We're not actually sponsored by Rainn Wilson. But this
We're not?
No.
Rainn, what the fuck? Why'd you lie to me?
Did I not tell you?
Rainn Wilson is in the corner of this room. I swear to you, this is actually happening.
This episode is... Crap, hang on, I'm on the wrong one. This episode is called...
Rainn just left, by the way.
Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad. And it does indeed have some magic in it. This is a fun episode.
Groundhog Day.
I did not see this coming at all.
I don't think any of us saw this episode coming. This one was a lot of fun. By the way, in case you don't know at this point, my name is Megan Washington. I am joined by...
John Quick.
And in the back of the peanut gallery, Greg Payton.
Yeah, and this episode was fun.
It was fun. It was enjoyable. I honestly like.
It was Star Trek-y.
Yeah, I'll say spoiler warnings, but I think like you just listen to the enthusiasm of us, and this actually make you want to watch it more. Like even if you see the twists coming
I would say
in this
if
episode,
you only
they're just
watch
really
one
good.
episode of Star Trek Discovery, let it be this episode.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, I mean just the joy of First of all, I mean if you're a fan
Greg,
of Groundhog
intro.
Day.
Keep it intro.
I'm just saying, if you enjoy it, just watch it.
All right, so punch it.
Warp 9, Captain. Okay. Well, we'll get into that. Okay, we're back with Discovering Discovery. This was episode 7 of the series, Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad.
And Star Trek Discover Star Trek.
Yeah, and holy shit, yes! What the fuck just happened this episode, guys? This is
Star Trek just found itself.
Yeah, this is...
So I feel like we've entered some sort of weird temporal vortex.
Yeah, speaking of, this was like a
wherein the creators of Star Trek Discovery have gone back in time until they realized what they were doing.
This
could be a giant metaphor for the series where they're like, sorry guys, we can't actually go back in time and redo the first 6 episodes, which were garbage. So we're just gonna do this little anecdotal one about us pretending to go back in time and fix things.
Yeah, so I guess the premise of this episode is Harry Mudd, who you might remember from I believe was episode 4
or 5, I think.
Yeah. 4 or 5. He comes back. He has some sort of device that allows him to basically loop the same 30 minutes over and over again. And what he's trying to do is find out how the Discovery works, and then he is going to proceed to sell
the spore technology.
The spore technology to the Klingons, and that's basically the premise of the episode. It's a Groundhog Day, but the only person that is able to see this is Stamets because he has DNA from the tardigrade, and so
he
therefore
exists like a little bit at a time.
So yeah, he exists, a little bit at a time.
Again, an interesting callback to like other Star Trek, because there's always like Data, and Data would be the one that didn't get mind whammied or whatever, like
or even 7 of 9.
Yeah. There's always one person who like caught the loop,
So we've been talking about in previous episodes, like us doing a what the fuck because we're angry at what's happening. We're being hypercritical of the show. Now we were going what the fuck because suddenly everything was like working.
Well,
I know there's very few things in this episode where I was like, oh, this is garbage.
Yeah.
But like those few things I was willing to overlook because the rest of the episode was so good.
Yeah. I mean, beat for beat, this was a Star Trek episode. Beat for beat.
Yeah, structure-wise, it was completely on point. Like there was character beats, which was huge because we've literally had no character beats up till now, and all the ones that were there were super forced.
Yeah, I know more about the characters in this one episode than I've learned in the past 6.
Yeah. Definitely.
And like, yeah, I know that they've referenced the Klingon War because it was kind of like they had to, but it's also like I think they're just like, God damn it, guys, we're stuck in this thing. I guess we have to have this fucking Klingon War.
Yes.
But let's have fun with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was refreshing all the way
There's
down
all these
to
great moments. I care
Star
about the
Trek
characters
theme.
now.
It was great. That
And
was
there's like, as a side note, they've inserted different things that we can be like excited to wait for them later on. Like
Yes.
if people were super into Michael Burnham and what's his name being like a couple, he's like, oh, we missed our first kiss, and
Well,
you're
also
like,
too,
wait,
now we
wait,
care.
now we get to
Now
see
we
it again.
care.
We get to see the first kiss again for like the second time when it happens. So
And
now
also
people
too,
are like, oh wait, I
Michael
need to tune
Burnham
in for that.
is beautifully sympathetic. She's like the way the character is directed now. It's completely relatable, and the whole notion of like she's never been in love before. It's like, well, shit, man. I mean, okay, I can. Anyone can relate to that. Anyone can care about that.
And like they brought Stamets like totally back around. Like he's a really fascinating character now. Before
Completely.
he's this really kind of this wooden like asshole.
Yeah.
And
he's great now. He's like the favorite character now.
yeah, it's
I
also
even enjoy the redhead, the cadet, more. I
Yeah,
enjoyed
she
her
was-
presence more as well.
She was great too. She didn't seem anywhere near as forced.
No.
I know. This is weird.
and people
Wow.
aren't talking like assholes anymore. They actually talk like humans.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
there was a
man.
little bit of that, but it like
But it was
worked itself
warranted.
out,
It
and
was
it was
warranted.
Yeah.
You know.
And I even got the sweet justification of seeing Lorca murdered multiple times, which gave me a lot of closure that I feel like I needed.
Well, and also too, it wasn't even. Just, plus, it was. This was also an episode. Once again, I've said time and time again that the production value of this show has been remarkable, but I've always
It's been wasted.
frustrated as to how they use
Yeah.
it exactly. This episode literally uses the fucking crazy effects that a show like this normally can't do, but that it has on things that make sense, the things that work, and things that yeah, I want to see Lorca get killed 10 different ways. I want to see someone get eaten from the inside out by a fucking dark hole bomb or some shit, wherever the fuck
It's
it
a
was.
little black
little,
hole thing.
little dark matter button P.
It's like
Grape.
Yeah, it's like even when Lorca was like being an ass, like at the very beginning, where he's just like, I don't give a damn. Like that.
I told you, I don't give a damn.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
like I don't care. It was just like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. And then especially I mean the only part on the episode where I was just like, this guy, Harry Mudd, could like, how's he not seeing through this? Is the part where Lorca is trying to say, it's just like, I don't want to have a repeat of my last ship. Bullshit, man. We know that you would rather blow this ship up and everyone with it than let the Klingons get a hold of it.
That one though, you do kind of look at it and you're like, well, maybe they realized that was a really shitty thing, so maybe we should repaint that. And like that one, I will give to them. There's been a lot of things that have been rewritten in hindsight in Star Trek where they just go back and be like, no, that's totally, we meant that differently.
What really happened was
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've gone back and done that multiple times, so I'm willing to give them that one where they're like, no, this was an accident, like I don't want to have a repeat. I'll give them that one. Like
Yeah.
we'll see where it goes, but I'll give them that one.
yeah.
Because I feel like they might have realized that did not land how they intended it to land.
Oh yeah, not at all. Like it didn't fit whatsoever. The thing about it is like they can still keep going their like darker route. Like Lorca's still going to be Lorca, so he's
Yes.
going to be like almost an antagonistic force, which works because like, okay, he's the captain, but Michael Burnham is our protagonist.
Yeah, but
Yes.
even in this one, like, and it might have been kind of like a last minute thing, but they did give him the, no, I'm going to stop for a second and listen to my crew. Like,
Yeah.
so they had that.
Yeah.
They had the, oh no, you're going to warn me 3 times before you shoot me because you always warn me 3 times. That's huge because in every other episode, they just wander around shooting people.
Yes.
So the fact that an Enterprise security guy is like, oh no, I'm going to like actually warn you before I fire, that's
Yes.
huge. That's also another like throwback kind of thing.
Yes.
But I also like how he shot him at the moment in which he actually would shoot him. Like he's
Yeah.
getting close to the thing. Bam. Yeah.
Like stop it.
You're
Stop
just
it.
like, what
stop.
is happening?
This is a complete 180.
Wow.
This is so weird. We like thoroughly enjoyed this episode. Instead of talking over it and being just like really angry about it, we were actually like engaged in watching it.
We were invested in everything that was going on and
Like,
hoping
wanted
that they
to
would
see what
get
was
through it.
happening.
Yeah.
Shit, man. Like I'm trying to wonder because I'm so used to us bitching about episodes.
did
Like,
we talk
it's like,
about?
how the fuck are we gonna fill this episode?
Well, no,
like,
and that's the thing too, is that normally I can pick up things. I'm like, oh no, that's something that I want to like talk about and remember. And there was a couple things in this one where I was like, okay, that's a thing that I want to bring up, but I'm having a harder time remembering what the things were that snagged for me.
Well, let's not talk about what's an act for us. Fuck it. Like, we have this one good
Let's talk
episode.
about what works. Fuck it.
Like, I
Yeah.
was waiting the entire time for them to fuck it up, and they didn't fuck it up this episode.
Yeah.
Now, episode 8, like, that might
Yeah, who knows what's
totally
gonna happen?
change. But this episode, let's just
Did
talk
you,
about.
Did you want to like preview episode 8 to kind of see? Just
No, I
see
mean
what
we
okay.
have to. Hang on.
Please.
We've gone through 6 episodes of garbage, and I'm not afraid
This
to
is
say that
true.
it's been 6 episodes of garbage. I need to savor this moment because I
It's
enjoyed
like
this episode.
It's like a sweet nectar respite in the
Oh my gosh, it's
desert
like an
of
oasis.
nothing. Yeah, it's a very sweet, very delicious episode. I mean, in the words of Mud, it was very delicious.
Well, it was fascinating. They made the Harry Mudd character a lot of fun, and like he's always been a lot of fun because he's just one of those great classic characters. But they kind of melded him together with Q a little bit, which I think is great.
He was totally cute.
Because you definitely, you need, like, John Delancey was amazing,
Yes.
and you need somebody who's going to have that same kind of flair that people can be like, oh my God, Mudd's back.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, when you see him at a Star Trek convention, Rainn Wilson pops out. You're gonna see the guy from The Office and Mudd now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna see Mud more now. Like, I never thought you could ever make Rainn Wilson legitimately threatening. Like, I was just like, there's
he was
no
super
way.
threatening.
He was so like,
But, like, in a funny way?
yeah,
Yes.
like he was still like a very comical character, but he was
A threat. A fucking threat.
Yeah. Well, and the
Not
other
to be
thing, too,
crossed.
is that I generally don't really like Groundhog Day stuff just because it gets really monotonous really quickly, and you're
True.
like, oh my God, we've seen this.
True.
But the episode was even edited together well, where you don't get like, oh my God, we're going through the same thing. Like
Yeah.
they did the jump so well. You're
But
like,
this is
well,
legitimately
edited well?
this is
It looks
legitimately an
well?
example where all of the craftspeople, everyone who showed up when they were told by their agent or by their producer or what have you, oh, you're working on a Star Trek show. They finally got
it's
to
like
do.
everybody showed up today.
They got to do what they wanted to do.
and
like,
aside from the
in every-
random
in every
character
aspect.
development hair, which we have yet to decide if it is actually changing colors or if the color correction is just really weird because dude's a platinum blonde / redhead and we don't know yet.
Okay, what we're going to do, just so that Quick doesn't have a fucking aneurysm about this shit, is that we're actually we're gonna line up all of the standards from all the episodes once we're done, just to kind of like
Do
prove
like a
this
hair
one-
montage?
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
You
we're gonna have to.
fucking have to because I
Yeah.
swear to God, he
Yeah.
has character development here.
We will do it. Well,
But-
no.
Okay, but like,
I'm going
I
to stitch them all
hated
together
him.
so you can
I
see
hated
it.
Stamets in the first couple of episodes because he was awful, and he's fabulous now.
And we also had we didn't know why to feel empathy for any of the characters. Now I feel total empathy for everyone.
Well, yeah, and you get like a lot more of it. Like you get, there's even a little bit of insight into Michael Burnham. Like she's kind of a grouchy bitch because she felt so isolated from everybody all the time. So you're like, oh, like you never had friends, you never hung out with people. You were alone or not because you wanted to be, but just because you were kind of forced to be. So you get like all these little nuggets. You're like, oh, okay, like
Yeah.
I can kind of see why you're grouchy now.
So if you
because we
if
could
you
never figure out why
retrack-
she was grouchy before.
Yeah, if you retrack all that from episode 7 now, and you rewatch episodes 1 through 6, now everything retracks in such a different
I
way.
mean, I don't know if I'd say that.
I'm just saying, if you were,
It
it
helps.
it helps. If you were to take all of those,
If the
internal
Klingons show up in the
motivations-
next episode looking normal, I'll be on board.
yeah, if some like gas mutation explodes,
They just
and
show
all of a
up and
sudden
everybody, like, nobody says anything, but they just kind of look at him for a second.
they blink.
They suddenly have hair.
Yeah.
That
The
will be
Klingons
amazing.
had fabulous hair.
They really did.
It was very.
fabulous
It was like it wasn't hair. It was a mane. It
Yeah,
was
it
like
was
that
gorgeous.
qualified as a mane. It was glistening. It had bounce. It had it had volume.
It was like when you see the Samoans, like there's this wrestler. His name is Roman Reigns, and he's got this fabulous black hair.
Yes.
That's what it makes me think of.
He's
Just
The
this-
Rock's cousin, which
True.
is why.
He is.
He is.
But he's
he-
got fabulous hair.
No, he
He inherited the gene that Dwayne lost of
Yeah, yeah.
actually being
He
able to
did.
grow hair and
He
not
did
lose
lose
it.
his hair.
Yeah, no, the Rock. If you guys remember, like way back when The
Well,
Rock
he's
started,
also
he had
younger
hair.
still.
We are.
He hasn't
we
got-
are like.
He hasn't gotten to that point in his age yet. We don't know
Yeah.
if he's going to keep it or not. But at this point, he has fabulous hair.
Roman Reigns definitely has like a long mane of hair to add to the muscle mass that he has. That
Gorgeous.
The Rock, I think, wishes he had.
What we're saying is that the Klingons used to have this. That's the
Yeah.
just
Circle back here. Klingons used to inspire that hair envy because
Alright.
they had this amazing
It
thing
really
happening.
did. They really. I mean, I think.
And they had like the braids. There was like
But weren't the Ferengi jealous of the Klingons because of their hair?
that seems vaguely familiar.
Why wouldn't they? I think everyone should
The
be jealous of
Ferengis
the
never
king
had
and
hair though. They always had those weird headdresses that they wore.
And I feel like if you massage the ridge of their
Oh
ears,
yeah,
it's like
it was super kinky.
aphrodisiac
Yeah,
shit.
it was
Yeah,
like a
some
super
freaky
kinky
shit.
situation. I remember a Ferengi or two being like distracted by somebody massaging their ears. It was like a thing that happened.
Oh my God! So all right, let's.
This is how giddy we are with the fact that this episode of Discovery was an
Alright.
actual Star Trek
So
episode
I-
that we're comparing it
so
to
I
the Star Trek episodes.
So I want to we're gonna look
Also,
back at
we checked who was writing on this and who directed this, and there's literally no reason why this episode should have been this good. Like, there's nobody who were like, oh yeah, that person worked on Star Trek. That explains everything. There's none of that.
I mean, let's bring them up. Let's take a look at them. I was just like, because we have to talk about them.
They've done like nothing.
Yeah. All right. So here are the credited writers on this show. Aaron E. Collette.
Bravo.
Yeah. Jesse Alexander.
Bravo.
Sean Cochran.
Bravo.
And Kirsten Beyer. So let's look at Aaron's
John Quick,
credits.
insert an applause for these fine individuals.
For this episode, I
So
think.
like a couple of them worked on Heroes.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like,
Which was an ensemble show.
I mean, Aaron.
It was an ensemble show.
I mean, Aaron's
it was
credit
kind
is
of an
primarily
ensemble show.
he's primarily listed as a producer on a lot of these things. He's got 9 writer credits. Let's take a look at them. He's got 2 episodes on Discovery, The Proximity Effect, something called Hostages, The River. Okay, that's not a great sign. He wrote.
No, but like there's nothing of note.
Yeah. He's got like
Not to like knock the guy or anything.
like
but-
Heroes and Crossing Jordan. Okay, yeah, The River was just one of those almost a good ideas, is what I would say. Like that was that show. I'm not gonna blame him for it because I'm willing to bet I don't think he created it, but I think he was just a writer on the show, and I'm sure he was just like, well, you know, a gig's a gig. Let's see if we can make this work.
having
There's
watched
two-
Heroes though, I mean that show when it
Okay, so
was first on
Heroes-
was a lot better.
Heroes suffered because of the writer's strike. Like the
Yeah.
first season was great. The second season,
Well, on top of that, they also split the writers' room. Like that's also why it suffered. You no longer have those relationships with the writers anymore.
Well, this guy was also okay. And then Jesse Alexander. Okay, you're never gonna believe this. Guess what? Guess what his first film credit is?
what?
8-Legged Freaks.
That movie's amazing.
Okay,
makes
so
sense.
Okay, it might not be amazing, but I remember it being really funny.
Makes sense. Though,
it
yeah.
has-
It's been a long time.
He's also written on Da Vinci's Demons, Agent X, and then he's got one written by on Hannibal. So that's no doubt how he probably got connected with all of this, thanks to Brian Fuller.
Totally.
Let's see, and then we're gonna go back to.
And after that, he was EPing stuff like
There's like a
Alias
staff writer
and
who
Lost.
has no credits.
Oh yeah, that's let's go to Sean. Sean was our first staff writer. Kirsten's one next. Sean, he has literally one writer credit, and it's this one, and that's it. And then I think he's like there's miscellaneous. So he must have been just a rando PA.
Well, it says like he
on a
was like
bunch of other
production staff, like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
PA shit.
He's PA, and then Kirsten Byers, who literally only has Star Trek Discovery as her listing. So
Yeah, so there's
All right,
nothing.
looky here, you fucking all stars. All right, that just bravo. Because you know what? All the experience that you don't have is what contributed to this being a good episode.
yeah, like I the only thing that I could think of is like everybody that came together to make this episode was just like, oh yeah, we're making a Star Trek, right? Yeah, let's go make a
Let's
Star
make
Trek
a fucking
episode.
Star Trek
Yeah.
episode.
And then they
Like,
wrote-
I don't care about what you guys did before.
It's like, yeah, and I guess that's what they did. All right, and then it's directed by David Barrett.
Any relation to Majel?
I don't know. He is. Let's take a look at his filmography. He is as a director, he's got 45 credits as a director according to IMDb.
Boom.
Blue Bloods.
Oh, that's solid. Solid work right there.
Zoo, American Gothic,
Solid.
Under the Dome,
CBS likes him
Rush.
a lot.
He's got 2 episodes of Arrow.
Oh,
I
fucking knew I I knew I recognized it because no, seriously, Arrow has very distinct directors, and I was like, all right, that looks familiar.
Yeah.
That's dope.
It's got 5 episodes of Castle. I don't know which ones. Then V. He directed 3 episodes of V.
Dope.
Got 1 freaking episode of Supernatural, although 2011, so that's not really in its heyday.
He did
was like, what,
he did
season
he did Super Ninjas.
No, that's like
Yeah.
season 2, season 3, wasn't it?
2011? No, that was because 2010 was when they did the ending as season 5, and then it came back.
So that was in
later.
season 1. Season 1 was amazing. Season 1 was when Supernatural was still like super horror.
He did Human Target and Nikita, which are
Mhm.
great, well-directed action
did-
shows.
Is that the OC I see?
Yeah, he's got one on the OC.
He's got Vampire Diaries.
So he's a pretty well-rounded director then.
Yeah,
because there's a
Extremely.
lot of-
No, I mean, it goes back as far as to, I mean, he's been doing this for E-Ring, Smallville, Veronica Mars. I mean, it goes back, this motherfucker goes back to Pacific Blue with fucking Mario
Dang.
Lopez. Like, this motherfucker's, like,
He's been around the block.
he's legit. This motherfucker's, like, done the best of the best, the worst of the worst, and
So-
everything in between, so.
Makes you wonder if he like is the one that actually like grew up watching, or if any of these guys grew up watching Star Trek. You know, it's
But
you
this
just kind
episode,
of wonder
but the one
because
thing indicative
I'm
of this
curious to
episode,
go back
they
through and,
didn't
like-
have to. Like they all had the skills to get the job done, and I'm kind of thankful that maybe none of them did watch anything
well,
Star
like
Trek.
the thing is that the original, like, you know, the first two like Deep Space Nine, Star Trek, those were on the air when they were still. They would buy scripts from people, right? Like they had their crew of staff writers, but literally anybody could send in a Star Trek script. They read through
Wow.
all of them, and they would just buy them, and they would have
Jeez,
the staff
wow,
writers
wow.
do like a once-over on them.
Wow.
But there's people who never wrote in TV before that or since then that wrote episodes of Star Trek because it was literally one of those shows, and that was the era of TV at the time.
like fucking crowdsourcing Star Trek.
Yeah, so you could just write an episode, send it in, and they would take care of it. And like the thing was is that the structure was so in a way that was a very easy thing to be done because you had all the beats, you knew exactly what time and what episode like stuff was going to happen, so they were very formulaic like that. So there was random people that would write episodes and send them in that they would put on the air because it was that easy to kind of put them together.
And episodic TV was a lot easier back then.
Yeah,
too, 'cause
so
it's
and
purely
this is
episodic,
the other
yeah.
thing about this one too is that the other episodes have been trying to not do the episodic thing that or
Has
they've been
hurting
trying
it,
to not
and
do
it's been hurting it. Yeah.
yeah, and they've been trying to change the way the storylines work. This is the first kind of canned episode that we've had. They don't leave the ship. They don't go off somewhere else. The Discovery is just kind of cruising in one place, so you don't get them bouncing around.
and over again.
Yeah, but this is the first kind of like
It was
It-
basically a
what
bottle
they call
episode.
it. Like it's like
Yes,
a bottle
yes.
episode. Yeah, this is the first one they've done that's been a bottle episode,
This is how we save money.
and it worked.
It's. I mean, you could tell that everyone was proud of this episode by the fact that in the last sequence they reintroduced the Star Trek theme. It's like, yeah, bitches, we did
I know,
it.
we
Fucking
did.
did it.
We did get the kind of like the token musical key, and it
Yeah.
was just like a little thing, but you're just like, hold,
Yeah.
wait a second, we haven't heard that yet. That's
Yeah.
the first time we've heard that in the show.
And they earned it. I'm like, fuck it. You earned that shit. Like, great job, well done. Crisis averted. You
And
earned it.
I don't know. It feels like the actors too had a little. You could tell that the vibe was a bit different with them. Like, and I don't know if that was just me like putting that on there, but it felt like they were.
No, you could feel something different with the actors. That there was an energy there that like is in other Star Trek.
Yes.
That you can just kind of feel that it's like it was in like throughout most of DS9.
Yep.
It was in like kind of like the mid to later seasons of TNG.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah, because TNG didn't really have that until like. I mean, they did have it, but it didn't really pick up until like season 3.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
say it took them a while to get their legs.
Yeah, but shows they also had the liberty of taking a little bit longer to get their legs back then, you know?
Yeah.
That's the era where motherfuckers were allowed to take time. Shit.
Yeah.
And it was an Enterprise as well. It was just this notion of, hey guys, we're making TV history right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And even in Voyager, I mean, you had Shakespearean actors who didn't look down on the material. They elevated the material they were given and enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like again, like we go back about it, like at the end of the day, you can say what you will about Gene Roddenberry, and I'm sure that like as things got older, because he was a product of his times, I'm sure you could look at like some of his things and think like, well, he wasn't necessarily the great man that you lead him up to. The man was far ahead of his time for the 60s. He was pushing to have the second in command of a starship be a woman and nobody say anything about it, because he was just like, at this time it's just going to be normal.
Command.
She was third in command?
Yeah. But that's still huge.
Well, originally the number one was supposed to be a woman, and they forced him to change it.
Yeah, so and you do see that in the canned episode. That's actually Majel Barrett that's playing the first officer, which is great because you kind of get to keep her like she was the first officer in the cage. They brought her back as the ship's computer. They also brought her back as Waxana Troy, which is great. So she's had her mark in a ton of Star Trek, which is awesome.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Then you had a multicultural crew.
Mm-hmm.
And again,
Which was
nobody
huge. Even having-
said a word about it because it was so normal.
And especially at the time, having like Asian actors was huge.
Yeah.
Because just like having, the African American actors was huge. Having Asian actors was huge. Like,
Yeah.
it was a big deal.
And he was like going against the grain as hard as he could. And then you got to give all the credit in the world to Lucille Ball, who was just like, yeah, no, I'm putting this on the air.
That's right.
Yeah, it was
That's right.
great.
So, and that was supposed to be the spirit of Star Trek, was let's not reflect reality as it is. Let's reflect reality as it should be.
Yeah, we can be this. We can be this great. I mean, literally, this episode, reminded me of again Roddenberry's philosophy, and Roddenberry's philosophy was very much in the same vein as, I would even say, Richard Donner's Superman, where it's just, it's not about how you find the humans now to play hero. It's about what you believe they can be and what they strive to be. And I'm here to try and help you get to that point. And Star Trek is often about that as well. Is like, yeah, we know what the real world is now, but in the future, it can be here. You can be better, and you can rise above this petty "Make America Great Again" bullshit. You can rise above the nationalism. You can rise above Brexit and all that bullshit, but you can get there. It's not this cynical doom and gloom fucking apocalyptic future shit.
Yeah, like that's, and I think you could feel that energy, like, about all of it. At the end of the day, it was like the message of Star Trek has always been kind of compassion and love, and like you can see that was the driving force of this episode, was Michael Burnham realizing like all of that for Tyler, which then became...
Well, it's not just for Tyler either. Like, she realized the friendships. Like, the first kind of note was when she gets bumped into and he hugs her and he's like, no, this is like a normal thing. You can like touch people and be friends with people, and like, that was like the first note, the first time he bumped into her.
Yeah.
And then it circles back around to her like actually wanting to,
And wasn't it so funny how when we first saw her, it was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, she was
we didn't
just,
know
like,
what's
super-
going on.
like, wait, what is happening? This is weird.
And then just like everybody just having like a crazy like actual good time party on the show.
I mean, we had no explanation for the party, but it was happening.
I mean, it was just I think it's what
We
is,
almost
like, Greg
forgot the
said.
disco shirts came back.
Yeah.
They were
and-
different colors this time. This time they were black and white. Last time they were white and black. We still don't know what the disco shirts mean.
Disco.
I'm not sure if it's like an abbreviation or something. Like,
Oh, we should create one. We should create what the disco stands for. Like,
Yeah, 'cause I know that last episode we were like, what the fuck is that? Why the fuck are they wearing that? Because it was a weird idiosyncratic thing. It's like they hadn't really earned it. And now this episode we're just like, yeah, fuck it. It says disco on their shirts. Who gives a shit?
which would have been funnier had they been listening to disco music.
Yeah.
But once again, these are things that we can just ignore and be like, all right, whatever, bro, because
Well,
you're
yeah,
giving
but,
you're
like,
giving me
because
an actual Star Trek episode.
When the story is stronger and the character moments are stronger, the stuff that doesn't make sense or the stuff that you're like, really? Like, that stuff
Whatever, yeah.
doesn't matter as much
Exactly.
when
You just
everything
roll
else
it
is
off.
there.
It just rolls off. I mean, seriously, we've been tearing this show apart because on every single beat at every juncture, it's been just like, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck, and it's just episode 7. I mean, man, lucky number 7, shit, it's great, beat for beat. I mean, lucky number 7.
Well, and the
loss for
other thing
words.
that I liked about it too is that they kind of reintroduced the captain's log. Like, they had Michael Burnham do kind of like
beautifully too.
they had her do an audio kind of journal to kind of bookend the episode, and I
It's
feel like
beautiful.
that definitely helped out a lot because we haven't seen
It touched me
anything
in
into
the
her mind. She's
feels.
been like
It hit me in the
brooding
heart.
in corners. She's been staring at stuff, but she hasn't really spoken to anybody. She hasn't really talked to anybody. So getting to have like that additional kind of
because she was talking to us.
yeah, but it was like a nice touch, like a nice window into what's going on
She
with the
was
character that we
talking
haven't had.
to us, Megan. Audience, to us.
And we got Mud doing a captain's log, which is great.
Oh, that's right.
It was amazing.
That's great.
I really hope that Lorca starts doing Captain's Log now, and that just becomes like a part of the episodes going
I was
forward, that they keep going with it.
I'm pretty sure Lorca's like, what the fuck, bro? I've never done a log yet. What the fuck is this shit about?
Yeah, like he's
fucking
like, oh
mud
my
to the
god, I
log,
forgot. I've been so
fucking
distracted for the last year that I haven't been doing my Captain's Logs.
Like, I got reports to catch
Because
up
they were
on.
always kind of a nice way to introduce like the
Most
episode, what was
definitely.
happening, like the story, like, oh, by the way,
Absolutely.
this is what we're doing this episode.
Yes, this is
You
what
know,
we're
like
exploring.
we're next to this planet, their moon's mysteriously falling out of orbit, so we have to put
Yeah.
the moon back into
So
orbit.
it gives
You
you
know,
an idea as to where we're at.
it gives you like context because they're in this huge universe, and we
Completely.
need to like narrow in on what's
It's
going
each
on.
it's each opening line to a chapter. This is what you're gonna be. This is an idea as where we're gonna go.
Not to mix franchises. It's like the Star Wars title crawl. Like
yeah, exactly. It gives you
Essentially.
context.
it gives you so much context, which is like what they didn't have it in Rogue One because they were just like, well, this isn't an official Star
Well,
Wars.
we didn't need it in Rogue One though,
Yeah.
because we knew exactly where Rogue One lands. You know, it's literally right before Episode 4.
In the pocket, in the fucking
And
pocket.
like the
Just
great
like,
thing about that, like, and what we won't go into that. That's not.
Yeah.
This is not a Star Wars podcast.
That
We're
is-
about to
yeah.
get cursed the fuck out right now.
Yeah.
Megan, whole bunch of fucking Star Trek fans.
Look, man,
Start fucking
As someone who
phasers on
identifies as
kill.
more of a Star Trek fan than a Star Wars fan, like I have a lot of great things to say about that movie. And not that I don't love Star Wars, I'm just saying Star Trek is better. I mean, but they're completely different, so you can't compare the
send
two.
all of your hate mail to Megan Washington,
It'll find me.
P.O. Box.
I will respond to all of it.
742
I'm on the Twitter _Kapla.
San
It's
Vicente
Klingon for success.
Boulevard.
You can find me there.
Zip code 90000.
I tweet a lot about traffic.
6
So
plus sign.
yeah.
You
So
wish your Twitter handle was in Klingon. That's all I'm saying.
so
Had that thing since 2009.
Wait, there wasn't a fucking Twitter in 2009?
There was Twitter in 2009.
Yeah,
I used
there
to
was.
use it on my flip phone.
it like came
That's
around.
why
shit
they
up.
could only be
Look that shit up.
140
No,
characters.
I need to prove that shit.
No,
was
like,
was
no,
that
no,
Twitter,
no,
Twitter
man.
2009?
At least 2007, yeah, because I
That's-
had
Really?
I was part of an early Twitter campaign in 2008.
Yeah, man.
Jesus.
That's why you could only do 140 characters, because that's what you could text message people.
Jesus.
I used to get tweets to my phone as text messages.
Just good Twitters.
Anyway,
had to
so
text-
enough of
you
the
had to
history
tweet.
lesson.
It was like 44044. You had to tweet to
Wow.
something like that. You had to tweet to the number.
Fucking throw. Jesus.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Old school.
Fucking T-Mobile, no
And to
keys up in this
think,
bitch.
next July I'll be 22.
What? Some fucking wonky math is that? What the fuck? Like, in that case, your ass shouldn't have been drinking when I was in Vancouver. That's
Yo, man, I've
weird.
aged like a fine wine.
Good lord, you've been breaking mad laws and shit. I've been aiding and abetting. What the fuck? That's fucking not cool, man.
Yep, Twitter officially was founded on March 21st, 2006. So
Oh,
Boom.
shit. Oh god.
Boom.
Wow. Oh my god.
I got a Twitterversary the other day. I was like, God, has it been that long?
Oh.
yeah, apparently.
It's great. It's great.
All right.
Yeah.
Me
So-
and the old tweeter go way back.
I'm gonna be really, really sad. Like this is like a short episode, but like
I'm really here's the problem now is that now that we've enjoyed an episode, we have all these expectations of the next episode. So I'm gonna be so devastated when episode 8 comes around and it's just garbage.
yeah, we gotta break
Because
with
up until
format.
now, we've been like, whatever, it's gonna suck. And then this episode didn't suck, so we were just sitting here in shock the whole time. But now I'm like, wait, but the last episode didn't suck. Maybe the next one is gonna be good too.
Oh my god. Can you imagine that hope is just destroyed?
Right?
It's just like-
They've ruined it for all of us because now we have hopes and dreams about what the series could be, and they're just gonna shit all over
The biggest
us.
fuck you is like, we gave you your show. Are you happy?
Yeah,
Are you
you
happy?
got-
Fuck you.
They're like, look, there's your fucking Star Trek episode, man. Can we go back
You
to
get
like
one. You get one.
Every season we give you one, and that's it.
that's all you get.
Now
And then
back to our doldrum fucking non-Klingon bullshit.
And then that's what happens at literally every single season. Star Trek fans keep coming back for the one.
For the
They
one
come back
episode.
For the one
They're like,
fucking episode.
I don't know which episode it's gonna be, but there's gonna be one episode and it's gonna be so good.
I'm not
And
gonna tell you what it is. I'm
we
not gonna
won't
tell
know
you
which
where
one
it's
it
gonna
is.
be. It might be the first one, might be the last one, could be the second one, could be the fifth one. You gotta wait and watch.
You
So-
don't know.
So predictions next episode.
I don't know.
I predict I legitimately, because they did a hard turn on episode 6, which kind of
because we
hurt a
like
lot
when
of
we
us.
watched episode 6, we were watching it going like, I don't know what is happening. This is weird because it feels like they're
Exactly.
trying to do some sort of weird in between thing.
Exactly.
And I feel like that weird in between thing where we're like, what the hell is happening? Kind of
Yes.
prepared us for this one because this one is such a huge turn.
Completely.
So it's like they're trying to do the turn in that one, or
I
trying
think
to like
they've
warm up to it.
completed the turn. I think every episode from
know.
here
I'm
on out
really
will be a
curious.
Star Trek episode.
I'm really curious.
That's my prediction. That's what I'm saying.
I'm really curious to see what the next one's gonna be like, because I don't know.
I will have hope for the 3 of us.
Because like either this next episode is gonna yet be another one of this was fucking great, or it's going to be the most vitriol. It'll be a 2-hour long episode of us going,
Spewing hot venom.
you sons of bitches,
You were this close.
you demon motherfucker.
Like, oh, the
You
humanity.
lured us in, and now we're gonna find you, and we're
hunt
gonna
you down.
hurt you.
We're gonna channel
Mark my
Liam Neeson.
words.
I don't know who you are.
I will find
I have
you.
a very particular set of skills,
And I
most
will
of which
kill
include bitching about shitty TV
On the internet.
on the internet.
Where all meaningful arguments go.
Look, man, there's some great arguments, especially in YouTube comments.
Oh, those
No,
are
just
those are those
That
are meant
was-
those are
you-
meant for the
that's like-
Smithsonian.
That's like the
just
refuge.
you
That's-
just lost me right there. I
That's
was just like,
Oxford
That's
level
That's
trolling.
That's the one place you never go. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter how mad you are. That is the one place you don't go.
Wow, I wonder if I'm going to get constructive feedback in my YouTube comments.
Just like read 2 and you're like, I give up on humanity. I've lost all faith.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
I hope the aliens like if they touch down on here, don't read
It's gonna
fucking
be
YouTube.
like, so
don't go to
here's the
YouTube.
thing.
Wherever
it's
you
like
go,
when they
don't
sent
go there.
Voyager out, right? They sent Voyager out. They gave it the golden record.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
there's some great stuff on there.
Completely.
If we send out another like
It
satellite that
can't be
has another
Twitter.
golden
It can't
record,
be YouTube. Don't
for
do
the
it.
love of God, do not put
No.
YouTube comments on
Don't do it.
because
Don't
they'll be
do
like
it.
it'll be like the Vulcans when they were first passing Earth and they're like,
Nope.
"Ooh," and they just kept going. It'll
Like-
be like that.
Or like when you pull up to someone that you recognize and that they know you know them, but it's awkward as fuck. You just pull up like,
You just pretend that you don't see them. You're like, oh yeah, what's that thing on my phone that I was looking at just
Oh,
now?
huh.
Oh yeah.
traffic really
Or
interesting
when
right
you,
now.
or when you
Traffic
do that
is
really
so
like high
important
pitch,
right now.
you do that high pitch thing like, oh my god,
How are you? It's
Yeah.
been
I
forever.
haven't seen you in so long. I have no idea who you are. What was your name
I
again?
should get your number. Can you put your name in?
Oh yeah, just like you put your number in there.
Yeah.
And make sure you put your name in so I
Your
spell it right.
Can you just put your full name in? Because I always spell your name wrong. I always spell it wrong. So can you do it for me?
You know, I'm not gonna lie, I have no shame. Back in the day when I was in college, I had this friend, and
Had. She said had. You,
Had,
so you
yeah.
see what the fuck happened.
so like no, this was like, so like the first 4 months we knew each other, we hung out all the time. I had no clue what her fucking name was. No clue.
But those when friendships mattered to a degree.
No man,
I mean, it's
she was
just-
in my phone as that one chick.
Yeah, but
We hung out all the time.
but
I had
ma-
no clue what her name was.
Okay.
wait. First of all, quick.
Yes.
Was this friend real, Megan?
Yeah,
You sure? 'Cause
yeah.
I don't.
She's still on my Facebook. We're friends on Instagram.
I'm
We
letting
should,
this
we,
go
we
with
should
the
we should
knowledge
check
that
with
I can
Megan's
edit this
mom
out.
to
You
see
can
if she
you
had
can
like an
edit all of
imaginary
this out.
friend called
This
one
is-
chick.
No, you
to
can ask. You can ask
verify.
people. There are witnesses. There are witnesses to the story. She picked up on it that I had no clue what her name was. She knew.
Anyway, I
Anyway,
think we can officially call this episode.
it was definitely the best episode yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a Star Trek episode. It was a great Star Trek episode, and not just a humdrum Star Trek episode. It was a legit
No, it was
Star
like
Trek
it was good.
episode.
It was fun.
Yes.
We cared about what was going on. They took all these characters that we did not care about before, and like we cared about them.
And for all the vitriol
They
and
gave
hate
Lorca
and
a weird moment where
spew
we're
and-
like, I
and
don't believe
venom
you, but I'm gonna go with it.
that we've been throwing at this show. Again, props. Props and praise to every single man, woman, Klingon, child, hybrid android, cybernetically
Look, we give
augmented
credit. We
person
give credit where credit's
who
due.
did a great job on this episode. I mean, holy fuck. Talking about, seriously, being as efficient to pack in all this story, all this empathy in, 45 minutes?
No, it's great.
I mean, you can't this was so much darker than any other Star Trek
Oh,
has
it
ever
was-
done. But
it
it's
was
yeah.
ridiculously dark. Everybody got murdered. I don't know how many times, which is like jarring to say the least.
And yet, It was still hopeful.
Yeah.
How the fuck did you do?
Oh my
you
god,
pull
it's
that
almost
off?
like it was a Star Trek episode. That's so weird.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's but so like you know you don't have to do Star Trek and grimdark do not go together, but you can still do dark. You can still tell this dark story and have like harsh realities and
I mean,
not make it
I would argue with
cheeseball.
that though,
Yes.
because there has been some dark stuff in Star Trek. They've never failed to not go to places that other shows wouldn't go, and
Yep.
they've always very much had those dark moments, but
Mhm.
they're very much so like character moments, and they weren't like derivative, you know, like they were very meaningful.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
I just watched the episode of Enterprise where you find out that T'Pol has the disease that you can only get via mind melding, which was
Oh shit.
and it was a complete like metaphor for the AIDS crisis.
Oh Jesus, that's right. Yeah.
And it was harsh,
Oh,
harsh
man.
as hell on the Vulcans, harsh as hell on like literally like everyone. Like you could the subtext was not like subtle if you knew what you were taught, like if you knew exactly what they were like kind of like talking about, but they never like said it out loud. They never compared it to what had happened in like Earth's history. Like they never had a moment like that. They just let
Yeah.
it stand. But
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
I mean, even Voyager, they had the episode where somehow through some way a second Voyager had been created and was dying over time. It first of all, it broke my heart. Second of all, I'd ask you, is the Voyager ship you've been watching this entire time been fake? But yet it still left you with some hope of the future of this
Well,
crew.
there's
mean,
been
it's
great stuff
yeah.
too. Like there was an episode of Next Generation where they find I believe it was the Enterprise C, and they actually kind of go back into this weird time vortex where they end up with the Enterprise C, and they
Yes.
realize, like, the crew of the Enterprise C has to realize that they have to sacrifice themselves and they do have to
Yes.
die.
Yes.
And like
Yes.
it was this huge moment. It was
Absolutely.
this kind of devastating thing because you have this entire crew and you have to write them all off, and they
Yeah.
know that they have to die at the end of the episode.
To restore time, isn't it? Because
Mhm.
they were outside of time. They have to go
Yeah.
back to this one war, this one battle where they lose. I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Yeah, because basically what their storyline was is that the Enterprise C explodes, they die saving a Klingon colony, and that's one of the things that ended the war between the Federation and the
So they
Klingons.
have to go back.
So they had to go back and they had to die, because if not, then
We'd still be at war with the
Yeah.
Klingons. Yeah, exactly.
so they have all these huge moments. They have little ones, like they had, single parents kind of thing, like dealing with that, like with the, Alexander had to deal with the death of his mother. Like there's all sorts of stuff like that they've been dealing with.
Yeah, I think that like in all honesty, the thing that has always kind of kept Star Trek, the perception I should say of Star Trek in this kind of, I guess you could say like lower register or like people looking down on it, has been like, well, one, the budgets for all the episodes. They always had to do everything on the cheap.
True.
So it was trying to find ways to do that.
Yep.
But it was brilliant though. Like the transporter beam was literally glitter in a glass of water.
Yeah.
Which to date is still
It still looks
a
fantastic.
beautiful practical effect.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I mean, like, so that's one thing. The other thing was, it's like, so they also couldn't afford necessarily the best of talent. I mean, they would have good talent every once in a while, and they would have good talent kind of like smattered in, but of course not everybody that was a part of every single Star Trek was great. So that also kind of hurt it. And
But
then
that made the actual series regulars rise to the occasion. Like,
Yeah,
like they knew they had to bring it.
yeah. And so, but now with this show, we see the budget is behind it for
A1.
for the effects. We know that the talent is behind it.
A1. Yep.
Yeah, and so now it's all coming
The
together. and it's
effects
like-
are
Well, it's
there. The
definitely
effects are finally caught up to itself.
More so than before too, because you had some of the members of the bridge crew who we haven't met yet, haven't seen yet, and they actually had like a moment where they were used. And you're
Fucking
just like,
shots and interaction and
you're
movement, like
what? This person's been in the background for how many episodes now, and they're finally getting like
the
a
former
thing?
the former crewman who was on the Sinjo, who came back with an implant on the side of her head. Like, she got some action in the background. She was making out with some dude. I was like, yo, that's development. Like, you're doing shit. Like, that's cool.
And then I like his random communications officer, like the entire time. Like, you can definitely tell over the course of like his many times blowing the ship the fuck up, Mudd never gave enough of a fuck to actually like learn anybody else's name.
Like, hello, random
Well,
officer
there's
guy.
also other things in it that were great that were actual elements of the show that have been ignored, like the transporter beam.
Yep.
They actually put back in how the transporter beam was done.
Yep.
Where they had to use like the 3 fingers and like do this, like they actually reintegrated that. Where we're just like, oh yeah, we mysteriously discovered how the transporter beam
Smart
works.
ass
This is
guy
so
in
weird.
a white smock
They had-
talking shit.
They had the tricorders from the original series. They brought back
scanning,
like the scanner
consistently
with like
scanning.
the handpiece. They were actually doing like, oh well, let's scan it.
Like
Let's
scientists
do
do?
some science here. You're just like, what is happening? What do you mean you're doing science? That's weird. Oh my god, you solved the case by like doing science. You figure this out because you actually use logic. Like, what is happening?
Their phasers weren't always out and ready to fucking bust a cap. It was just like, no,
No, it
it's
was
cool. It's
great.
cool. I'm parking it. Wait for it.
Yeah, no, it was. It makes me actually kind of want to see how this like crew in this ship will actually do in a real war situation. Which, granted, they're technically supposed to be in, but you know,
Yeah, that's
know.
probably all right. If there was ever
Well, here's the
something to
thing,
pull
though,
a thread on the
and-
show, it would be the fact that still we've heard a lot about war. We even open up on Burnham's VO monologue about we're kicking ass, we're winning the war. Once
Well,
again, I don't see the shit. I want to see the shit. I want to see the war.
The thing about
That's
that
all.
though too is that anytime you get like a war movie or a movie based about war, it's always centered on like a big battle. But if
Yeah.
you go and watch you watch Band of Brothers,
Mhm.
there isn't there was fighting and stuff in each of the episodes, but there's also episodes like where they were stuck in the forest, and
Yeah.
so there's just like they're stuck in the forest for days and days and days, and there's episodes where they're like, oh, we're just hanging out in this French village for a while, and
Yeah.
like there's all these things that you miss. It's like
The moments.
war is like moments of terror with like
moments of
eternities
extreme
of
boredom.
Yeah.
extreme boredom,
Yeah.
right? And so you don't get that. And so this is like, oh, well, like we're on patrol of the sector and we haven't run into anybody for a while, so we're having a party.
Yeah.
You know?
Completely.
And so you're actually getting that, whereas before you're like, okay, they're not literally going to be in battle all the time. That's
Yeah.
not feasible. It's not going to happen.
But they
Space is
also
huge.
gave them something to do other than some dastardly dark experiment, because that was the problem with the previous episodes. Is that okay? We're not
Yeah,
seeing
it's
the
like
war,
we're not at war right now.
but now we're seeing like these dark experiments that don't go anywhere. Like what's going on?
yeah, I don't know. It was like,
Breath of fresh air. Breath of fresh air.
seriously.
Well, I tried to call it before. Kind of glad I didn't, but I think we'll call it right now. It's, unless you guys got any like other last parting words for this.
Until episode 8.
I'm just concerned, man. That's just where I'm going to leave
It's
it.
gonna be great. It's gonna be
Yeah.
awesome. We're gonna come
I'm
back.
scared because I have hopes and dreams now.
It's gonna be great. I
Yeah.
have faith. You must believe in the Roddenberry.